Taking the perspective of somebody that's been in the music industry for many years, you walk very particular political lines. One of the things that I've been up against as an artist is, folks kind of want you to be on Skid Row while representing the people. You couldn't possibly be having decent forward mobility and also be a solid person politically.
Yeah, that's also a function of capitalism, and I don't hold the consumers responsible for that. It doesn't matter whether or not the consumers have grown in a system that teaches them that music is free and they shouldn't value art. That's true, but that doesn't matter. The onus is still on me as a creator. But I went through something with the Black Star album when I put the Black Star album through Luminary, and I put the Liberation album out through Luminary. And in my career, as you know, as an artist, most of the things we do end up in the red.
Yeah.
Most of the things we do are a labor of love. We put things out in the hopes that we can make a profit, but we really don't profit on the music because people don't value the music. People would rather buy an iPhone for $1,000.
Yeah.
And then if you ask them to pay $1 for a song, they'd be like, you being greedy.
Yeah.
I already pay Spotify. Why I got to pay you too?
Yeah.
So
facts.
These people have been indoctrinated in that way, and it's our job as artists to help break them out of that and help create situations where they can feel comfortable in supporting us. But with the Luminary situation, that's the first time, one of the first times that before I put out a project, I was in the black. And so we were able to not have to beg you to buy the album. And we were able to not have to put it through Spotify. A lot of people complain about the streaming, but we empowered ourselves as Black men, independent Black men, to not have to go through the record industry that everybody complains about, to get paid without having to ask you for a specific amount of money. All we asked you to do was subscribe to Luminary, which was a platform where you didn't just get the Black Star album, but you got the People's Party, you got the Liberation, you got all these other podcasts. Now, to be fair to the consumer, a lot of people might not want that. It's like the same thing when YouTube put their records in on something with Apple when you got iTunes and it came in, hey, I don't want that, right? So that I get that, right? But at what point do you take responsibility as a conscious consumer? When I rolled that project out and I spoke about it online and I told people what it was, and they were like, people were upset. Why I got to sign up for Luminary? I'm already signed up for all these other things. Why can't you just put it in the marketplace where I always go? So people were essentially complaining because they had to press 3 or 4 buttons to get access to my music instead of pressing 1. They didn't want to leave where they were at, and they felt offended. And they felt like I was taking advantage of them. And they didn't put it on Most. And the only reason they didn't put it on Most is because he don't be online like that. They came at me because I was online like that. And I know because they was like, it's probably all Kweli's idea. And it wasn't. Like, to be fair, like Yasin Bey is a visionary. This was all Yasin Bey's idea.
Yeah.
And he was correct. If it was up to me, it'd have probably been on Spotify.
Yeah.
But I was following my brother's lead, and he was correct about that. And people really got at us together, very upset. And that was disheartening to me. It made me feel like people don't mean what they say. They don't want to actually support the artists. They just want it to be convenient.
I think that's a sign of the times. I think hip-hop is going back to a direct-to-consumer module. I think, unfortunately, projects like that one were like the sacrificial lambs to kind of wake everybody up and say, hey, this is possible. Also, another person like that for me was Nipsey Hussle.
Shout out to Nipsey.
And then another guy that don't get enough credit to me that is a great kind of direct-to-consumer independent artist and manipulates Spotify is Sauce Walker. My approach to building my career for real has been basically one part. What you guys do is pick and choose when to insert yourself into the system. And then outside of that, you are using the underground to build these different apartment rooms that people could go into. And I took that narrative from Sauce. He said, you need different apartments. And so when you dropped the Luminary joint, that did make me decide as an underground dude that, all right, if these cats on that level of the game and they going direct to consumer, then like maybe there's something there. So I dropped like probably 20 mixtapes direct to consumer.
Did they do well for you?
I mean, I made more money off of them than I did on Spotify, didn't I? You know what I'm saying?
Well, at least somebody got something out of it.
I mean, it's not like I went quadruple plat
Right.
off of them, but even to this day, there's folks who watch this show and go, oh snap, he do got a bunch of tapes out that I could buy instead of just streaming. But the challenge to that is you have to keep going when you go direct consumer because everything isn't going to sell equally. So right now we're in a market where people just want the music, so they really don't really care. So
Yeah, Jimmy Iovine said that streaming is seconds away from being obsolete.
facts,
He says streaming is like an ATM machine that does nothing for the artist.
facts.
And he talked about how when he first came in, he started producing for John Lennon. And he realized by working with John Lennon, all he had to do was focus on making the artist great, and the artist would make money for everybody. And he said the problem with streaming is they don't want to give the artist anything. Their whole business model is based on what the artists create, and they want the artist out of the room. They want the artist out of the equation. India.Arie killed the game when she talked about the fact that Joe Rogan got this $100 million deal with Spotify. And he talks, and Spotify's business model is based on music, and no musician has that deal with Spotify. Spotify and these other streaming services are not giving us access to the list. They're not really in partnership with us at all. They're really like, fuck y'all.
It's the truth. And you know, and I see this a lot of times, even back home when I talk to different artists that are trying to figure out their situation, and they might have a buzz or they might got things clicking for them. I always say, man, like, you want to make the best music you can make, obviously. You want to be known for making good music. But don't get so caught up in music as the primary product that you're trying to create as an artist in terms of monetization. Because you're going to be chasing that for 20, 30 years. You just have to have other interests and things that people find intriguing enough to associate with you and your music. But music as a singular product is the worst product you could have in a capitalist system.
Yeah, I read a book by KRS-One when I worked at Inkiru Books back in the days called The Science of Rap. He actually put it out for free because he was not a capitalist like that. I called him on the radio. He was on WBAI, and I asked him how I could get the book, and he sent it to me. He sent me a box, and he was like, just give it out. I was okay. But in The Science of Rap, he says, if you're doing music for money, stop, because you're tainting the music and you're doing the music with the wrong intentionality. I'm paraphrasing, but that's what I got from that book. So that's the same point you was just making.
Yeah, I heard alchemists say this before, that taking sound and trying to package it to be sold is something unnatural. Like when they invented the drum, nobody sat around and said, oh, shit, it's on. You know what I'm saying? Whatever that was, we about to get rich. Nobody said that, you know? And even thinking that you could take sound and sell it to somebody, you're doing something that's so unnatural that when it comes time for us to really figure out the equation of why music is or isn't selling, none of it makes sense. Everybody just making up shit out their ass because when the origin of sound is not that you would give it to somebody for a couple dollars.
Which side are you on?
Get off the fence, son.
Which side are you on?
Get off the bench, son.
Which side are you
Who will
on?
stand to